Right. Hello. I think we are live.
Yay. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is always the fun bit. It's like when you do an Instagram live, you've got to kind of wait that 30 seconds for everyone to start to catch up.
Nobody's watching yet. Nobody cares about the MKAL anymore. Nobody's here.
People are coming. There are 12 here. And people are saying hello in the comments, which is good. So I'm guessing people can hear us.
Yeah, let us know where you're watching from. I love to see where people are knitting along from.
Stephen, you've done this before, right?
Yeah, I've done it a couple times before. People are just waking up right now, I think, in North America and Canada. My Chile knitters, I'm sure there's a bunch that are going to join us from Chile. There's so many knitters in Santiago, Chile, knitting along with all the West Knits. They're taken over. I think Santiago, Chile is the #1 belong city.
I'm interviewing a guy from Brazil whose whole yarn store is doing Mystery Knit Along. So tell us about it. Like, how does it feel like? Because so I did this series that I called Humans of West Knits.
Yeah,
right?
Such a fun series.
I interviewed different knitters who participate in this year's Mystery Knit Along. And what blew my mind was the fact that they're from all over the place. We had New Zealanders, we had Australians, we had Africans, we had like everybody and everybody, right? Does that blows you away?
Yeah, it's crazy, especially now because I don't travel as much. It was really fun when I used to do the knit-alongs and I would be touring and traveling and going to festivals in October and seeing everybody's progress in person. But now I'm just here at my computer with my dogs, knitting along on my designs, but seeing all the pictures from people all around the world, that really blows my mind because it's just like, what? This is really happening? Somebody halfway around the world. There were a lot of Japanese knitters participating in this year's Mystery Knit Along, and I loved so many of their color palettes. So I was following along on Instagram, getting to see all the progress. I'm like, really? That many people all over in Japan are all knitting along that same shawl. So it was really touching to think about that and know that all the fun that I was having and the imaginations that I was coming up with all these textures were being experienced by other people from all over that I haven't even met. It just blows my mind.
It's definitely a worldwide thing. Do you know roughly how many people take part worldwide?
Not
that was a common question that we had.
But I think it's up now. There's like 8,000 or 9,000, I think, that were posting their projects on Ravelry and stuff.
Wow.
So it's crazy. It just seems like more and more are doing it every year. And I see so many people recommending the knit along each year to new knitting friends. So a lot of people are encouraged to, learn new techniques as they just started learning maybe a year or two ago. So I saw a lot of people, like last year, someone made the shawlography as their first knitting project ever.
Wow.
Like I don't recommend that. That's crazy. But they finished it. They just followed the video and you put loops through the needle and you get the shawl. That's all there is to it.
One of the humans she just learned how to knit in July and she's doing
crazy.
Yeah. But I think that's something that keeps coming back is around the videos and how if you're just a confident beginner and you're happy to throw yourself in and you can follow the video, it tells you everything step by step. And it's the way that you always say yes, don't stress. I think that like people get so much in their head about, I can't do that. Or I'm missing a stitch. And you're like, it's fine, just squeeze one in. It's that relaxed approach.
There's a lot going on, and this year's was quite technical. But after every section, if you just take it easy on yourself and go, oh, I'm missing 2 stitches. That's okay. I'll just sneak them in somewhere. It really doesn't matter as long as you get back on track. And I know Linda knits the same way.
Question about it. So one of the questions was right about that. Somebody asked that you always seem so relaxed, no stress, and yet the section where you pick up for cables, if you move 1 stitch to the left and 1 stitch to the line, then the cables don't align with the stripes, and it's very technical.
Yeah, it can get totally messed up if you're 1 stitch off, but it doesn't, like on one of my shawls, it was a little bit off, but
it's the same on one of my wings.
Yeah,
I didn't notice it until Irina said about it. I was like, Oh, I'm not ripping it back. It'll be fine.
Yeah, if you notice, you could sneak it in and get back on track, but that's still, to me, a little detail. So if this is shifted over just a teeny bit, that's okay. If it's way shifted over, it might be really obvious, and then it's okay to rip back and try a pickup time 2. But
well, are you learning stuff from like people, so many people knitting it, right? So everybody's judging your pattern writing, basically. And they saying, well, Stephen could have done better over here, and Stephen could have explained more over there. How do you take that? Like, do you take it as a critique? Do you take it as something to improve on in the next year, knit along? Like, what's your...
Yes, definitely. It's always different every year. There's different techniques. So I always like listening to the feedback. And sometimes it's more of like a look opinion of, oh, I don't like how that looks, or, oh, this could have looked better. But if it's a technical thing, I definitely take that into account and try to keep making my patterns better and better. But it's always a fine line to me of making the knit along really detailed and super crisp and clear and writing it out so everyone understands it. But there's a certain point where you can over explain things and make it way too complicated. So I always try to strike that balance between making it, you know, not too crazy and too, you have to do exactly this, but also giving enough technical information so that you can knit it. But for some people, it's not enough. And for some people, it's too much. And so it's always striking that balance to make it fun for everybody, because there's like skill levels from like 0 to 100 participating. So there's never really one answer, but sometimes for certain elements, there are some suggestions that I look at and go, oh yeah, I could have done that a bit differently. And then I save that in my pattern writing vault and pull it out next time, hopefully. But
do you have a favorite part of this year's shawl, a favorite section? And I guess the same for Linda then, because I've got my favorite bit.
I like the cables so much because they're so textural. And when you wear the shawl, it's a totally different experience of making the shawl versus looking at the flat shawl versus wearing it. Those are 3 very different experiences. Some people participate to get the finished thing. Some people participate in the knit along just to have fun knitting and they don't care what it looks like. Yeah. But I like it all. So I want the process to be fun. I like the finished flat thing to look really impactful. But my favorite part this year is how it drapes and overlaps. It's a totally different style when you see the sections cascading together. And I love that decorative cable. It's such a focal point that was really fun. What was your favorite part?
My favorite was the stripes.
Oh, cool.
And I know I still haven't, so I'm definitely team embrace your pace. We'll get you guys to show off your shawls in a minute, because obviously you have the finished items, but I'm definitely team embrace your pace. But this was my favorite bit, and my favorite bit because I learned to cable without a cable needle.
Oh, good. Yeah, that
because I watched your video to start with, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll use a cable needle. And as I started doing it, I was like, I can't do this with a cable needle. It's so fiddly.
Very fiddly.
And it's like, right, all of a sudden it just clicked. And it's just the most rhythmical thing. You could watch telly with it. Yeah. You don't need the pattern. You know where it's going. And I just enjoyed that bit so much more than week 1. We'll talk a little bit about the casting on, casting off.
But Linda, did you like those strips?
It was my favorite as well, because it was like I was comparing it with dancing or Tai Chi or calligraphy, like where you trying to get like into the smoothest possible movement without like jerking out your needle and stuff. So it was like really meditative. I really enjoyed it.
How did you find it, Linda? Do you have a favorite section?
Stephen is gonna laugh because the cables were my favorite.
That's crazy. I got Linda making cables this year, and Linda got me making socks this year.
Yep.
So we traded techniques.
Linda, was it killing you because you knew what's coming? You like already knitted it. Was it killing you to see like all the drama out there of the people saying like, where does Stephen going with that? What the heck is happening over here?
I always try to encourage people to just, if you're not happy, like after clue 2, just wait a little bit. It's not a competition, just wait a little bit.
Yeah.
And for me, I knew how the shawl would end almost, because there was a little bit added to it in the end. But I knew how it was going to end. And when people were wondering where these strips would go and like thinking about that, they would like wrap and you would like graft it somehow together and stuff. I was like, oh my God, what are they thinking?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. But people came up with a lot of crazy ideas about what to do with just the strips. So
yeah, for sure. And when you get the test knit, one of the questions we had was, do you get the test knit as we get it? So do you have week by week, Stephen, do you chunk it up and then send it in, or do you almost get, I've got this far, work through that, and then we'll work out which is week 1, week 2 at a later date? How does that work between you and Linda?
Did I send it in chunks this year, Linda?
You don't remember?
No, it was a long time ago.
I think you sent clue 1 and 2 first, and then you were like completely finished writing the rest, but you had finished the entire thing, so I knew how it would end, you know. But I think I got clue 1 and 2 first, and then I got the whole thing in like 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
Linda,
so it's
do
in
you
a
feel
couple chunks.
responsible as like a test knit coordinator? Do you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders? Because Stephen can make a mistake, but you guys have to fish them out.
No, we have such a good team. I mean, I wasn't finished first at all. We have 2 beautiful ladies who are super speedy and like really, really technical, and they catch everything, and we just trust them. I think I found one error after they had finished.
Yeah,
Stephen, one of the questions was asked, is it more difficult to design the pattern that has to be released by clues? Like, how do you approach design of the mystery knit along versus designing just the regular shawl?
Well, the mystery knit along is the party of all shawls, so it has to be the best design ever, and it has to be better than every year before. So no pressure, but that's how I think about it. Is I think about the mystery shawl very different. I get into a different spirit and a different mode. I like transport myself back to knitting with Linda in Iceland. That's my happy place. So if I can, I've designed a lot of mystery shawls in Iceland, but if I'm in Amsterdam, I like teleport my mind to Amsterdam and don't say yes, don't stress, just be one with the sheep. And I just try to come up with really fun and playful things that I haven't done before. So with the mystery, the last 3-4 years have really evolved into these like texture and stitch collages. So instead of going one way, the whole shawl design, like a lot of my other designs, there has to be lots of different elements so that each week you have to do something new. I never want to do a mystery knit along where like, and week 2, we're still doing garter stitch and yarn overs. And week 3, we're still doing garter stitch and yarn overs.
You did that once.
Yeah, I did that once. Yeah, the color thing. So they've really changed through the years. So I think about them, yeah, never again. But I think about the designs very differently now. So they have to be enthralling each week. So I usually start with swatching, and that's what I did this year, was I don't think I have my swatch nearby, but I did like a little collage of all kinds of techniques. And then I kind of take those ideas as like my brainstorm and then try to apply shaping to those colors and patterns. So it's lots of levels and layers that I dive into for the design.
And did this year's start with the braid section, or did you start with one of the other techniques and then think, I need a central panel? Or did you have the central panel in mind that was where it grew from there?
I started with the braids, and then I second guessed myself, and then I cast on a version with cables, thinking that would be the center section. So after I swatched, I was doing some drawings to like visualize a potential shape. And I really liked the symmetrical shape that we got. So I committed to that early on, but I was like, oh no, twists and turns. People really got to get the cables first, because that's all about the twists. And then I was doing the cables as a section 1, but it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be even more complicated to get people set up with their stitch markers and cable twists and shaping. And I'm like, that's too much. So I went to chevrons and the loops for section 1, because I really wanted to start the knit along with something that I haven't done at all before, and that a lot of people would do and be like, what the heck are we doing with those loopy loops? So I like to start people off strong with something really impactful visually. And I just loved that section 1.
Were you concerned at all about how labor intense the first clue happened to be?
Yeah, but I want to make the first clue like a little more intense than later, because you got to get people really going strong. If it's too easy, people are going to like, just, oh, I finished in a day, done. There's got to be, that's part of the mystery. You've got to have that stress and then that longing for something different and then the relaxation. And you have
but
to
this is where you keep us on your
it.
toes, because was it last year we ended up with the mystery clue 1A? I'm sure it was the first week.
Yeah, I did a surprise, and I don't think I'm ever going to do a surprise clue again because people freaked out last year.
Monday appeared. It's like, there's a new video from Stephen West. It's like, what?
Oh
no, I haven't finished. And then I was like, oh, but there was a lot of people speculating that we were going to get a mystery clue this year for week 3, because even though I'm behind, the stripes were relatively easy compared to some of the other weeks. So
I wanted to have
people guessing.
Week. Yeah, I wanted to have a quiet week, and it really kept people on their toes of like, what the heck? We have one more week of clue left. Is this going to be a shawl? I really like the process when people really doubt my ability to make a shawl.
Well, this one was my very first mystery knit along, so I didn't really know what to expect. My fear was that I'm going to get done way too fast and then wouldn't know what to do with my free time. That didn't happen at all. Actually, on the week 2, I was behind the day, but I had like different transition through the clues. So the first clue I knitted, I was like, love it. The second clue I knitted, I was like, I really hate this shawl. I don't know where it's going. I'm not loving the look of it at all. Then I knitted the third clue. As much as I enjoyed those cables, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Stephen was thinking this year. Like last year, the year before, this year, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't like the strongest thing. And then the fourth clue came out and I was like, oh my God, I love this shawl.
Comes together. Yeah,
that's the process.
Do you go through these things? Do you go through the same like mixed emotions when you're creating it, where you like love it, hate it? I don't know about that. Like, what's the whole thing?
I really loved it in the beginning, and then I needed something relaxing. So I'm really glad I did the garter stitch. But then as the knit along goes and people start guessing what's going to happen next, sometimes I hear these ideas. I like do these polls on Instagram and people add comments on my YouTube videos of, oh, there's going to be some like edge that wraps around and ties into the loops. And I'm like, oh man, that would have been really cool. I wish I did that idea. So sometimes I'll do a real simple section that I love and people are like, maybe he's going to do color work cables, crisscrossing eyelet loops with braids. And I'm like, no, just garter stitch this week.
There was a lot of speculation in the videos we did before we started. There was loads of speculation you were going to make us do colored cables.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I hadn't even contemplated, and someone said it, and I was just like, oh my God, that's going to be my brioche this year.
That was one of my first inspirations. I was saving lots of images and I wanted to do these color work cables where one of the cable strands is one color and the other is another color, kind of in Tarja style. But that didn't make it into the final design because I wanted to balance having some technical things to it, but instead of doing everything crazy, I wanted to have some sections that brought people's energy back down to, okay, just knits and pearls.
Yeah.
Well, how many things that like you don't use in your design, but you were thinking along the way, how many of them end up being their own separate designs later on?
Yeah, in the mystery knit along design time, I work on so many ideas that some don't make it to the design, but then I save them for other shawls. So I'm working on another shawl with one of the twisting short row ideas that didn't make it into the shawl, but I'm going to use that for another design. Because I was doing this weird short row thing that made the fabric twist. And it was really cool, but it was quite complicated to write and explain. It was one of those things where you really have to pick up in the right place, even more so than this. So I saved that idea we'll save that for its own design. So there's always a brainstorm of ideas that will become something you'll see later. So more twists and turn things.
And Linda,
somebody compared you with like that you're this evil genius who are sitting there and laughing at all our twists and turns of our like not knowing where we're going. How much joy do you get from all the drama in the comments?
I don't get joy from the drama in the comments, but I do read a lot of the comments and I'm really good. Like I like people that post whatever they want in the Ravelry group. Sometimes even when people are posting like, oh, I really hate this. I'm ripping out my shawl. This is the worst mystery design ever. I read a lot of those, but that's fine. You should it's your knitting. You shouldn't knit anything you don't have to. So the mystery, it's not going to be for every single person, the final design, but I'm hoping that if you don't love the look of it as your favorite shawl, that there's something that you learn and that you learn a relaxed spirit of making and having fun, getting color inspiration. So it's fun to be a part of it. But that was one of the things that Irina and I talked about, because she said this is her first mystery
this year, but this was my 4th. And I said, I love not knowing where it's going. And I will always use, because it will always get worn under a coat, even if it's not one like, it's not my favorite, but I'll wear it because it keeps me warm. But Irina's like, I'm not sure I'm going to cope with this mystery element of it. And you've done it. We'll be back next year for your second one.
Yeah, we'll do more next year. To me, it's a good design when there is like a little bit of a split. I don't want something to just be like, oh, that's lovely and nice and expected. If people really love it or like, oh, I'm not so sure. To me, that's a good design when you get both of those opinions. Because I'm seeing so many finished shawls now where people are like, I love it so much. I've never made anything like this before. So I like hearing that, but that means it might not be for somebody else.
Yeah.
I think if you reach the point when you're designing for somebody else than yourself, you're basically a sellout. So, you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to please everybody, I think Steven is going to lose what makes him special, So
all the mystery shawls, they have their own like personality, and I really like the addition that this gives to the family. Yeah. And
I like that. I remember what I was doing at the time that I was knitting them. So there's a bit of a memory that it's like, oh, I was going through a hard time at work at that, or I was really loving work at that. Like it just reminds you of the things that you were doing. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. They've got their own little stories that sit around it.
When I interviewed Linda, I asked her if you were a tough boss to work for. And she said, no. Is Linda tough to deal with as a test knit coordinator?
No, we're like a similar kind of energy level where we're both really easygoing. So we're working on a lot of new projects. A lot of test knits are going on for new socks and sweaters. There's about 25 or 30 designs we're working on for next year. It's crazy. Yeah, Linda's working on some new socks that are coming out next year. So we work really well together because we're both really easygoing. And yeah, we just say yes, and we just like working with yarn. So the more projects, and we just adjust deadlines as they come. And yeah, we work really well together. And there's another team with West Knits of a lot of other people that are helping out with the tech editing and the layout. My friend Teresa has been doing all the editing. So that's another stage of the pattern production process where we catch more errors and get the layouts looking nice and easy to read in the PDF format. So it takes a big team, but we all work really well together.
And I guess part of that comes as part of the test knit process. So I guess one of the questions I had for Linda was how much the test knitting informs the week by week breakdown. Because I guess you're almost representing us as the knitters, because Stephen's got the idea and has come up with a shawl, but you're test knitting it to make sure it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But you'll have your own view about elements. I know we've talked about the shrimp, or you talked about the shrimps before. I think the two of you talked about. Linda did not like the shrimp. But does some of your experience then... Oh, I'm the critic. But does your experience as the test knitter then go, actually, you're going to need to cut it there because that's too much for that week? Do you get to feed in as part of that? Or Stephen, are you quite fixed?
I'm pretty fixed. I don't let them boss me around too much. I'm pretty clear. I'm like, because I spend so much time on thinking all the details of this. Like my whole brain is just MKAL during the season. So I'm real specific about how much I want to put in this clue and that clue and how I want to divide it. So sometimes I'll hear advice from my test knitters, or they'll think, oh, is this clue 2? And then I'll tell them, nope, don't share a photo of that for clue 2. This is going to be clue 2. So I'm real specific of how I want the experience to go for the knitters.
Do you have withdrawals after the MKAL is done? Do you feel like it's been like so intense and now you're depleted of energy?
Yeah, it's I like pour so much passion into the design and following all the progress. And I'm still going to be looking at everybody's progress because it takes a long time for some people to finish because it is a big shawl. So in the coming months, there's still going to be a lot to follow along, but I get wiped out at the end. And it's like, kind of when you go on a really fun vacation and you feel like you need a vacation from that because it's so stimulating and you're always doing things. So I'm feeling that where I don't have another shawl I'm working on because I'm like, I'm tired of this shawl. I put so much passion into it. So now I'm working on like sweaters and socks that are really easy and simple patterns to focus on. So I need a break until I dive into the next crazy shawl pattern.
You and I were like team no socks until recently, but now somehow I gave in into socks and you gave in into socks. How are you liking socks knitting?
I love socks because socks are the shawls of the feet. You use the same yarn. You can use the same fingering weight yarn, but just a little bit tighter gauge, and they take less time to make than a shawl. I always complain that socks take forever because the gauge is so tiny, but it's like, oh, it's just like making 2.5 hats or something, or 2 hats worth of knitting. It's not so
you know,
bad.
I test knit the Dessalin socks, and the thing that I don't know why, if I'm doing a plain vanilla sock, it feels like it takes forever. But I did the Dessalin sock, and because it was almost like 8-row repeats, it was like done in a week. And I was like, I can't knit a sock in a week. How have I met? It was just like, oh, one more section, one more section.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you've got a textured sock. I don't know, maybe it's just psychological, but it just felt like it grew quicker than a vanilla plain sock.
It's the same with stripes, and like I'm doing the honeycomb pattern and I just want to get to the next color.
Yeah.
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 Well, a lot of people were asking how can they become test knitters for Stephen West, because it's such a, like, every project is very exciting. Is there like a room for more test knitters on your team ever?
Occasionally, we have a group that we work with, and we try to stick mostly to that, just so we don't have like hundreds and hundreds every single time, because then that just becomes overwhelming, and yeah, not everybody can knit everything. But yeah, you can always send us a message if you're super eager to test something, because sometimes we have busier moments of test knitting where we need more test knitters. So a couple times a year, I'll also put a call out. So if you ever catch on my Instagram of me specifically looking for some test knitters for a project, I'll make those calls out when our test knitting pool is saturated and everybody is knitting something, but we have more designs.
Yeah.
So yeah, there'll be some opportunities next year for that.
We had a specific behind the scenes question that people want to know how something happens, the videos. So everybody loves the videos. So we had two themes. Do you talk it as you're going, or do you just sit in there knitting and then you voice it over?
I talk
and
as
how
I'm
long
going.
does it take from start to finish? Because of course, you'll start the video that we see for week 1. Well, we know that took a lot of people longer than a week, but it took a lot of people a week to do. So how long does it take you roughly to do each week? Because you're not doing that in a day.
No, I film them in real time. So I'll like film a section and then I have to take it home, and that's my knitting homework. And then I come back the next morning with my friend Mark, who films the videos and edits them for me. And so I do my homework, and then we can do the next section. And when it's a really long section, like where I have to knit and you don't have to see the whole row, but then I just like knit the rest of the row and get to the end of it. So he'll just like press play on the recorder and just leave me for like an hour to do my thing.
I'm going for
come
coffee.
back and make sure we're still in focus. And yeah, so it takes about a month we took making all the videos. Stopping and going. So I started filming the videos a month before first Clue came out. So I was about 1 month ahead of everybody knitting. And before that, I made the prototype shawl. So I like make the prototype, I wrote the pattern. Once the pattern was written, then I started filming the videos for my final shawl. And that took about a month. And probably for like per clue, like in about 1 week, we did, about a clue each week. And yeah, it took several full days of editing and stuff as well. So it's a really big process, but it's something really important to me, especially as a mystery knit along, to ensure people following are knowing that they're doing the right thing. So Mark is really great at editing the videos with me, and he did those karaoke subtitles. And he doesn't knit, but he knows so much about knitting as a non-knitter.
I bet.
Anybody else I've known, he knows BRK1, he knows all the knitting abbreviations. And yeah, he knows, he even catches mistakes sometimes in my patterns when he's doing the karaoke. He's like, oh, Stephen, you said knit 1, knit 3. Shouldn't that just be knit 4? Can't we just combine those numbers? And I'm like, how do you catch these as a non-knitter? He's so good.
A lot of people were wondering if you are also crocheting, or if you're thinking about ever putting a crochet pattern out there. And especially because of the first clue, apparently it's a common crochet technique to do those braids. Like everybody knows
it's like
about
a single crochet loop.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I don't crochet much, and it'd be fun to do some crochet patterns. But yeah, if I really do it, I really have to go into it. And whenever I get into something else, then the other things I love get neglected. So I feel like if I crocheted, I would quit knitting and only do crochet, which is good news for the crochet lovers, but bad news.
We'd have a crochet mystery crochet along.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
I was going to say a crochet
people
mystery knit along, but that wouldn't be a thing.
Sometimes people interpret the design and make a crochet version. I've seen that in the past, which is really cool.
Wow.
How they engineer and just get the look with crochet techniques. But yeah,
how much the two of you communicate? Like, is there ever a day when you're not in touch? Is it like daily kind of thing? Is it a once a week kind of communication? Like, how much do you talk between each other?
Like a couple times a week for like pattern specific stuff. We're always talking like a little bit, a few times a week, just on random things like pictures of cats and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have like a weekly check-in with like all the updates from the test knitters. But if it's something like super important, there like we are really close to a deadline, I try to report it in as soon as possible. But like weekly updates in our like mutual space. But we chat a lot about other stuff too.
Yeah.
Pizza and dogs and love and dancing and music. Yeah.
All the things friends talk about.
Somebody asked if Stephen
all the things that good friends talk about.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was if Stephen is a big fan of Star Wars, because the shape of the shawl was reminding people of the
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I do like Star Wars. That wasn't the intention, but when I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, that is like a starship. Yeah.
We saw Star Wars together here. We watched all the movies over Christmas when you were here.
Yeah, I love Star Wars, but I'm not like a super fan, and that wasn't the inspiration behind the design. But it does have like
a seed subconsciously.
Look. Yeah, subconsciously it gets in there. When I'm thinking about the shape, like I knew the final shape near the beginning of designing it, but I was thinking more about the functionality of the sections of those short rows curving. I really like doing that. So when you just wear it on your shoulders, it doesn't go anywhere. I just love those arch shapes, and then it's easy for those to start to look like butterflies or like bats or like spaceships, and so they do look like those things, but that's not my intention. But I also like that they look like those different things.
So how do you think French bulldogs, so you have brioche and stitch?
Yeah,
so Martin and I were like really talking about it before the knit along started. Is there going to be a brioche stitch, right? And the mystery knit along. At what point did you make a decision not to have a brioche section in this mystery knit along?
I left it open like when I was halfway working on it, but it started to get like a little more intricate with all those picked up stitches. So that's when I kind of went back to some more simple stitches for the later sections. So yeah, this year I was like, oh, we're already doing cables and twists and loops, and brioche is going to be a little much, I think, this year, but maybe next year, you never know. So we'll see. I do love my brioche
mystery.
Yeah.
But I learned to brioche, and I think a lot of people throw themselves into the shawls, because I learned to brioche for Starflake. And what I love is I look at my Starflake and you can see my first couple of rows, there's a bit of a funky section and there's something that's gone wrong and I've switched a color or there's a hole, but all of a sudden you can see over halfway, it just carries on. And it's not a problem, and it just works perfectly. And I like that I can remind myself that I taught myself to brioche, and there he is.
Yeah, and you did increases and decreases in that Starflake, so that was really, you can do everything now.
Yep.
Well, I also figured that after this specific shawl, I'm a total pro at cabling. I'm a total pro at cable cast on. I'm really good at picking up stitches, which I managed to screw up that, you know what, like I managed to screw up every single clue somehow.
Yeah.
The first one, like I don't even remember the first one, something happened there. The second one, I managed to start one section, so it went wide on the wrong side. So instead of going from skinny to fat, it went from fat to skinny. I had to undo that. So the first one was fine. The second one, I was so concentrating on my purling tension that I somehow put the side the wrong way. The third one, I managed to pick up the wrong stitch. Like on the fourth one, I managed to pick up stitches, not every stitch, like every other stitch every other time. So like suddenly I found myself with 13 stripes instead of 20 something stripes. So it's like I managed to like make some mess on every single thing. However, I enjoyed it. Like, and I enjoy undoing it, and the cables didn't align. So it was like a little bit of a drama everywhere, but it was like double the fun because I got to twice, you know.
Irina, imagine doing all of it without the videos.
Oh yeah, all my test knitters knit the shawl without the videos, which I was amazed by.
Yeah,
like especially like where to pick up stitches exactly. They just did it with the written instructions only, so that was amazing.
Well, that was the thing. Like I was wondering if it's because my thing, like I do a lot of test knitting, and when I do test knit, my idea is that I have to be able to just work by the instruction, by the pattern, right, without any additional information. So that was a little bit of my beef with that section, because I was like, if you didn't see that video, it would take you the whole section to figure out that something doesn't align and start playing with it. So like when something like this happens, right, when it can be like an extra sentence to explain, start with the third stitch in the I cord, and that will align the like there is nothing mentioning that those cables have to align, right? It's sort of like
no, I didn't mention it specifically. It like happens if you start where I show in the video. But
right,
yeah.
but like, do you think like when things like this happen during the mystery knit along, do you think you want to add to the pattern, or you just figure out, well, I'll do it better next time? Like, what's your feeling?
Yeah, I try, like I do it better next time, because like once it's out there, it's already too late. It's like it is what it is. Like, yeah, you can always like add and edit and more. So I always try to adjust things for the next time. But I really relied on the videos this year to make those as clear as possible, so that if you're watching those along with the pattern and putting your needle where I'm putting my needle, it should look like the shawl.
I love that you can start the video and you haven't got to worry about the pattern, because every week you just like, right, I'm just going to start. I'll watch the video. I'll follow it through. And I was really good this year. Last year, I kept going straight to the end of the video. And the first two, I watched it. I was really disciplined. And then I got really freaked out by this section, because everyone was like, Lyndon sent me a picture saying, I've put blue in. I was like, how have you put? And I was like, I'm not watching the video. Nope, I'm not watching. Then other people were messaging me going, are you changing your colors? I'm like, no. I had to watch the video in the end. I just couldn't resist, because it was just driving me insane. Like I couldn't find out why people were changing their colors. And then I was like, I get it. Okay, yeah, I'm doing that.
I'm always amazed by everyone's creativity, because some people change and adapt their colors just spontaneously without knowing what it looks like. And that's, I think, an amazing skill that you just build as you get confidence as a knitter, seeing, oh, this is what I'm knitting. I feel like adding a color here, and I just trust that my extra color pop is going to be something that I like. And some people just do that without knowing what the shape is going to look like for the end of the section. And then other people make those changes by looking ahead at the spoiler and going, oh, that's where we're going this week. I see an opportunity. I could add a stripe there and there. And that's another way to approach it. But either way, it's like really creative. And that's my favorite thing about the knit along, is seeing people change and make it better. And I saw some really cool color ideas where people were adding more loops to the cables and doing a detail on this cable too.
Yeah.
And, I wish I did that. And yeah, I love it.
And on the colors, so Irina interviewed Layla from Urban Pearl, obviously, who dyed one of the kits, who said you've got a fixed idea in mind. She's like, right, I need these colors. So which comes first? Do you have the idea in mind for where the shawl's going? It's like, right, I need it in that color, that color, that color. Or do you start with, right, I'm going to feature 3 colors this year, or 10 colors, or how do you, which comes first, or is it a bit of an interplay between them?
Yeah, this year was an interesting process, because it was the first year where before I knit a single stitch, I named the shawl. So I knew a year ago that it would be called Twists and Turns before I even knit anything. So I just had to design something that looked twisty and turny. So that was my limit to design. So I named it first, and I picked the colors as well before designing the shawl. So before I even did any swatching, I limited myself with the color style, saying, I'm going to design a shawl based on the main color, the contrast color, and the accent, because I loved Starflake. I love my Chrysler shawl, those really graphic shawls, but we're going to add one color pop. And that's going to be my design limitation, is how to work with this kind of color style. But I knew I wanted it to be that kind of style that was more emphasis on the contrast and not like a fade design, so that I could do some fun textures and stripes and they would jump out of the fabric. But yeah, I named it and I picked the colors before designing a single stitch.
Linda, were like a lot of people trying to pick your brain as to what's coming next time and next time?
Yeah, Linda.
Yeah, always.
What do you say to them, Linda?
Like in August, September, I work for a big IT company here, and there's a knitting group, and they start stopping me in the hallways, like, so I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna ask me about.
It's like, what are you working on?
Yeah. They're like, what do you have in your purse? I'm like, no, leave me alone.
Am I going to like this year's mystery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the shape? Like, is it similar to last year's? How many colors? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
zipped.
I don't want to lose my job.
Enjoy this year's Mystery Knit Along?
Huh?
Did you enjoy this year's Mystery Knit Along?
Yeah, I always enjoy them. I think it's my favorite time of year. Yeah.
Knitter's Christmas.
Yeah, it is.
What's your favorite mystery? Did this one become your favorite, or do you still love your Marled?
Marled Magic is
Marled
still my
Magic. Yeah, I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I started at Starflake, so I've done 4, but we had some people join us in some of the Zooms that we did before we started who'd made everyone, and they were there with all their shawls, and it's just amazing to see that you've got people that you kind of pick up along the way, that some people have been there from the beginning, have knit them all as mysteries, or some people have gone back to do them all. And then people now like this year that have just done one. This was their first one. It's amazing how that experience changes.
I want to go back in time and do color craving.
Yeah, that was one of my early mystery knit-alongs with 3 colors.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the most controversial knit-alongs of the entire history of knit-alongs, even more so than this year. So every year there's always some drama about, oh, this and that. Color craving was a big drama because so many people hated it. They hated it. And other people loved it. But it was so different. The year before was like a West knit shawl that was architectural, stripes, slip stitches, really fun, lots going on. And then color craving was all garter stitch with just yarn overs doing weird stuff. So it's just a really different kind of knitting and a really different look from the previous year. So it was just that moment of people's expectations were expecting something like this, and they got the opposite. And some people loved that because it's like, whoa, never done this, crazy, what are we doing? And others were like, no. Last year's style was like, but different. So it was the biggest shift in style, I think, too. So I loved it. That was my favorite year. So just got to stick around. One of these years, I want to achieve that same drama, not for the sake of drama, but for the sake of surprising. So maybe nothing dramatic, but what could I design that would be still the most beautiful thing, but the most mind-breaking, surprising element in a shawl.
So will you now start thinking about next year's, or is it now brain space? We'll do it next year.
I'm thinking a little bit.
Will you start?
I'm thinking a little bit about next year, but I won't actually start designing it until like early summer next year, I think, to give myself a break. But I've been making the hybrid knit along. This shawl just came out today. So my mind is all in these slip stitches that came for the hybrid.
I love that colorway so much.
And a fun fact about these, Linda helped me get all these tested and sample knitted. So this was the one that I made near the beginning of the year. So even before I did anything with the mystery knit along that happens in the fall, I planned all my winter projects first, because this had to go into a print book, and the print book has to be sent months and months in advance. So before the mystery knit along started, everything in this was finished. And so I designed all my winter projects in like the spring this year. And then I designed the mystery shawl. And then I got back into all these winter things that I finished and go, oh, I did a really fun thing earlier this year. I forgot about that. So this will be the winter knit along, but I made it first early in the year for the Aurora Cabin shawl.
Stephen,
I want to make this one, Stephen.
You're going to make this one?
Asking like if you have a favorite shawl pattern.
I think this is my new favorite, the Aurora Cabin. I'm obsessed with the slip stitch, and I just love the big semicircle shaped shawls. They're just so beautiful to wear. So yeah, I think this is my new favorite. I'm really impressed with this one because I spent a lot of time developing that little traveling slip stitch pattern.
It's beautiful.
I love doing the slip stitches. My slip extravaganza is my favorite MKAL shawl. I loved doing that so much. That was brilliant.
That one's a big, impactful. I think my favorite is Color Craving, and then Slip Extravaganza, and then I really like Texture Time. The like wavy wiggles and texture.
I've gone back and watched the videos for Texture Time, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not sure. When it started with the brioche, and I'm like, I'm not sure that I could start. I might have gone to the other version, but now I think no. You follow it. It's Stephen we trust.
Version.
Yeah.
Yeah, brioche is the best.
Do we want to show, spoiler alert, people are here, they've probably seen all the social media and all the shorts. Do we want to show some shawls? Stephen, are you going to show off your finished shawl? Should we go around?
I'll show off a few. I have some of my test knitter samples here too. So awesome. Now it's officially a week after Clue 4. So the spoilers are over. Okay. I'm going to start sharing my finished photos without spoilers this weekend. So yeah, we can't keep going on for months and months and months. So we got to see the final thing. So yeah, this is my one that people saw in the videos, and I knit with Neighborhood Fiber Company and the organic rustic fingering base. And I love this yarn because it's a singles yarn, but look how like plump and structured it is. It's really voluminous and like bouncy, and I just love knitting with it. And this was my first one, gray and gold. And I saw a lot of gray and gold palettes this year, which makes me so happy. And I know, Linda, you love this combo too. Gray and gold.
I wanted to do gray and gold or blue and gray, and Mark told me I wasn't allowed. I think I've seen him. He's just finished a meeting, so I'm going to call him before Linda shows her shawl because we've got the same kit.
And this, my friend Sonia, my test knitter Sonia in Germany, made this with Undercover Otter Eventide. It's a beautiful yak and silk version. It's really shiny and drapey.
I love those colors.
So imagine knitting this. She did it without any videos. So she knit the whole thing without even looking at a single video, which is really impressive. And Ines, my knitter in Germany, surprise, surprise, we gave her a pink kit.
Wow.
She's so good. This is with La Bien-Aimée in bright pinks. So yeah, so fun. So these are my 4 shawls.
Right, I'm going to call it Mark. Spoiler alert, come and see Linda's shawl.
Yeah. Linda, show yours off. You have the fun blue top.
Can you put the light on as well?
Hi, Mom.
Put all the lights on, it's dark. Come and then say hello. He's finished work now. I finished work a little bit earlier. There we go, I can see now. Thank you. Right, spoiler alert, because obviously I'm team Embrace Your Pace, so I've got this far.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Look at that.
See, told you, brown.
Brown.
Yours looks bigger than mine, Linda, or maybe you're just smaller than me. So it's.
I'm smaller than you.
I love it.
Oh, fun. I love those blue extra pops.
Oh, Stephen, now you can settle an argument for me. So Linda's pops, I've agreed with Mark that we're going to do one dark pop.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Linda just before you joined, I want to do one pop off center, and he wants 2 pops, one on either side for symmetry.
Ah, so you would do 1 pop on one side, but not the pop on the other side?
Yeah.
For all of the cables?
Just one.
Just one.
No, sorry. Yes. All the cables will have the accent color, but one dark off-centered, and he wants 2 dark.
I would do 2 dark centered, I think. I feel like if you're going to go asymmetrical, then like do them all the same, but then only one of the cables, a little scar of a different color.
I'm not going to get away with this now because he's going to say Stephen said.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get 2 against 1.
It is. I love it. Thank you.
Settled.
Irina.
I'm not showing mine. I'm waiting for you at the finish.
Oh, go on. No. It's fine. I'm going to take at least another few days.
That's fine. That's when we're going to showcase it together. I'm team.
Oh, you're so disciplined.
I'm going to be on the team. Embrace your pace and wait for Martin.
So supportive.
Thanks. I was like, I've got so much yarn left. This is going to be a big week of Clue. And then I was going to start last night. I had a clear night and I was like, no, we're all chatting today. I'm going to wait. And then I'll start for the weekend.
Yeah, you're almost there. Just a few more sections.
I know.
I've got to thank you for like being with us and Linda, like it was wonderful to have you on my channel as well. And this whole Humans of West Needs, like everybody who participated, thank you so very much. It was absolutely brilliant to meet all the knitters who make Stephen West so famous.
It takes a village, people.
It takes Iceland.
Yeah. It just gets more and more fun every year. So I'm going to save up all these ideas and people recommending what could have happened this year. Got to come up with something next year that'll be even better. So
I'm intrigued to see what the next pattern's going to be that you said the technique that didn't make it into this shawl. So I think everyone's going to be waiting now for a twist in the knitting and go, that's what he was on about.
Yeah, there'll be something next year and lots more sweaters and socks. And yeah, I'm diving into all the hybrid knitting stuff that came out today. So all these DK weight projects and fun kits to do the shawl from my new hybrid knitting book just came out today. So we did it a little bit earlier this season so that we have time for people to plan their gift packages and get their knitting. We're not going to start knitting together until December 26th for the next one. So I think that's enough time for most people to make some more twists and turns progress before the hybrid knit along starts.
And then so folks can go over to Stephen and Penelope to get hold of that and the kit.
Yeah, we put the book up just today, the Hybrid Knitting 3 book, and it's also an ebook on Ravelry and my website. And then we have our new hybrid knit along kits, which are all the colors to make that semicircle shawl I showed earlier. So these are all up and live, ready for gifting or to treat yourself as a reward for finishing your twists and turns. It can be a pre-reward. You don't have to finish it yet, but
this is my problem where I have 16 things that I never get finished because he turns to me, he's like, are you going to finish this? No. I'm going to start more things. Sorry. Stephen said.
Just start more things. I found that socks are a good secret weapon for in-between projects because they don't take as much time to knit. So if you knit a sock, knit 2 socks, and that refreshes your knitting mojo. And then you can go back to your big shawls and sweaters.
See, I knew you would become a sock knitter.
Yeah, I'm a sock knitter. All you have to do is make a sock and then you're a sock knitter.
Do you feel complete now, Linda, though? It's like, I've been telling you for years.
Took me.
My work here is done.
Yep. I think I can release my child into the world.
Cheers to that. And
yes. Cheers to the MKAL. Thank you both so much. This has been so much fun.
Cheers. Cheers.
I don't have anything. Scout.
We've got yarn.
Well, cheers anyway.
Yes. Brioche. Oh my gosh, he's trying to hump his sister. That's not good. Brioche, get away from her. Oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Okay, I'm gonna go take care of them.
No one saw it. No one saw it.
Thanks for knitting, kittens. Thanks for knitting along, making the mystery better and better every year. I would never do these mystery knit alongs if it was just for me. So it's only because of you. And like, I really want to thank you for doing all those mystery features for all the mystery knitters that you did. You really encouraged a lot of people to participate and showcase all their hard work and creativity. So I love that. That's what it's all about. So thank you.
It's been fun to bring the community together and do more things with Irina. And as you said, it makes a village, but it's the same from the community side as well. It's everyone coming together and supporting each other. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Yay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. We will leave it there.
Thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.
Bye.